Jim Brown, one of the NFL's all-time great running backs, has died at age 87. Jim Brown, a blazingly fast running back and a star of the Cleveland Browns in the 1950s and 60s, has died. The Hall of Famer was 87. His wife, Monique Brown, announced on Instagram that he'd passed peacefully last night at our LA home. To the world, he was an activist, actor, and football star. To our family, he was a loving and wonderful husband, father, and grandfather. Our hearts are broken. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell called Brown a gifted athlete and one of the most dominant players to ever step on any athletic field. In a statement, he also singled out his involvement in the civil rights movement, who became a forerunner and role model for athletes to become involved in social initiatives outside their sport. In his 9 seasons playing for the Cleveland Browns, Brown established himself as one of the sport's all-time greats. But football merely was the start of a life filled with accomplishment, doubt and controversy. Jim Brown called it the most beautiful game he ever played. A blend of speed, quickness, intelligence. His abilities landed him in the Hall of Fame, the first black player inducted. It seemed incongruous, compared to his defining and violent sport of football. But it was a testament to Brown's superb athleticism. He competed in 4 sports at Syracuse University: track and field, basketball, lacrosse, and of course football. He told the NFL Network in 2000 he loved how football was a constant test. In every way, Brown said, stamina-wise, mentally, courage. It pushes you to the brink and you can either deal with it or you can't. Football fans agree, Jim Brown dealt with it perhaps better than any running back in the game's history. There are defensive men in the league who have dedicated themselves, their souls and their bodies, to a holy war against Jimmy Brown. None of them yet has won the crusade. With his chiseled 6'2", 230-pound body, Brown sneered at the idea of running out of bounds on a play. But his rare combination of power and speed and quickness meant he didn't only run through tacklers. He zipped around them and away from them, evidenced by the long touchdown runs that fill his highlight reel. Rushing for 100 yards in a game still is a gold standard for running backs. Brown averaged more than 100 yards for each regular season game of his career. Other significant Jim Brown career numbers: 5.2 average yards per carry, 8 how many times he led the league in rushing during his 9 years, and 0 the number of games he missed. Was he the perfect running back? Almost. One hole in his resume was that he didn't like to block. The only thing I could say about Jim Brown, the late Hall of Fame defensive end Gino Marchetti said, is that he might not have been the best blocker in the world. But who cares about that when you could run and do the things that he could do? Those things included Brown's mental approach to the game. After being tackled, Brown always got up slowly. So defenders never knew, was he hurt or not? It was a little bit of playing possum, said William Rhoden, a longtime sports columnist for the New York Times. This is it, he's had it, and he'd slowly get up and then on the next play, would totally vanquish the defense. Long before he wrote about Jim Brown, Rhoden loved watching him play as a young NFL fan. But he particularly loved the way Brown left the game, for good. It was the summer of 1966. Brown was 30, still in his playing prime. The previous year he'd won his 3rd Associated Press, NFL MVP award. Brown also was an aspiring movie actor, and that summer he was in England shooting the World War II film, The Dirty Dozen. When production was delayed, it meant Brown would be late to Cleveland for training camp. Team owner Art Modell decided to get tough with his star, and said Brown would be fined for days he missed. So Brown got tough back. He retired. A few days before his announcement, on the movie set, he sent Modell a letter. "I was very sorry to see you make the statements that you did," Brown wrote, "because it was not a victory for you or I but for the newspaper men. Fortunately, I seem to have a little more faith in you than you have in me. I honestly like you and will be willing to help you in any way I can, but I feel you must realize that both of us are men and that my manhood is just as important to me as yours is to you." Rhoden, who's African American, loved the defiant message Brown was giving to his team's owner. "You're going to try to do that to me, this proud black man? Screw you." Rhoden said, and that to me, is when his legend began to grow. And it would only increase after that. A year after Brown's sudden retirement, he confirmed his growing legend by organizing what became known as the Cleveland Summit.